Please join me in welcoming Alanna McDonald, President of Mars Pet Nutrition North America. Alanna will be interviewed by Groceryshop Senior Vice President of Content, Krystina Gustafson.
Well, welcome, Alanna, to the Groceryshop keynote stage.
Thank you so much.
I am very excited to be talking about everyone's favorite category today, which of course is pets. You, though, are actually relatively new to Mars and the category overall. Prior to this role, you were actually at L'Oreal for about 7 years. So would love to start the conversation there and just hear a little bit about how your background in beauty really prepared you for this new role and category.
I think one of the commonalities in what can seem like very different categories, for me, is purpose. So both are purpose-driven organizations, and so what attracted me to Mars is we say the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. And in Mars Petcare, it's about creating a better world for pets. And so there's a vast ecosystem, and our brands like Pedigree and Temptations and Greenies and Caesar and Iams. And so purpose, I think, is probably the commonality for me, but more from a consumer standpoint, I'd reference probably not beauty as much as a category that I did before beauty, which was baby care. And so I think that there's many similarities in baby care and in pet care from a consumer lens because the purchaser of the product is not the end user of the product. And that end user naturally cannot talk. And so through that, then there are commonalities about how you connect with consumers. And maybe finally, kind of maybe another thread across all the categories has been the ability to make an impact. And in beauty, that's about confidence and self-expression. And in pet care, in Mars, we talk about that pets make the world better for us. And I don't know, we were talking backstage. I'm currently in a relocation from New York to Nashville, so on a personal note, we're experiencing it firsthand, and we recently rehomed a puppy. And the move has been quite challenging for my boys, but my two boys on either side, Howie is joy to them every single day. And that picture in the middle is actually not my own dog, it's one of our dogs of an associate in the office. But to be able to be in the office and seeing the impact of pets and what they do. So impact across the board on categories too.
No, that's fair. I agree that pets are a great icebreaker. Anyone that owns a pet in the audience, I think, would agree with that. But I do want to dig into that notion of purpose a little bit. I think you've mentioned that really sort of the purpose of your organization is to extend the healthy lives of pets. But what I think is really interesting about how Mars in particular is approaching this is, of course, you have the pet nutrition category, which you oversee, but you also have a veterinary service. So I'd love to hear how those two units are working together in order to support this mission.
Indeed, there's this entire ecosystem. So, Mars is the global leader of pet food, also in veterinarian clinics and hospitals as well. And then we have a very strong science and diagnostics arm, and the Waltham Science Institute has been conducting research for over 60 years. And so when you take the entire ecosystem into play, then there's real insights that can be found from the businesses like veterinarian and science that we can apply to food. So, one example would be about oral health, where through our veterinarian and science partners, we know that for dogs, up to 80% of them will develop oral health issues by the age of 3.
Because no one wants to brush their teeth, right?
Yes, that part of it would really brush the teeth, and complement it with then a product like Greenies or Pedigree Dentistics, and which is designed to then help care for oral health. And so from the insights through the overall ecosystem, then we can design products to better meet the needs of pet parents and ultimately at the service of pets.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's also some parallels. We're talking specifically about sort of the veterinary business, but I'm also thinking just of the similarities between human, it sounds weird to say human food, but human food, right? And sort of thinking about the health and wellness trends that you're seeing there. Are you also able to kind of work with, I'm going to stick with human food, the human food division at Mars in order to help with sort of your R&D and roadmap?
Indeed, because Mars also has a food business as well as the snacking business. And so we're constantly sharing insights across the board, be it either from a nutritional standpoint or from our sustainability mission is actually another one that we really link with. So we have a plan of sustainable in a generation. And because we're a business, kind of across the board, really based in agriculture, we're able to then collectively use that scale and partnership to make the impact that we want from a sustainability standpoint. Or other kinds of learning like digital. So, what is one business doing and learning and being able to reapply it back? So yes, it's based off of human food, commonalities in supply chain, and then commonalities in consumers or just business models.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think too, we've been on this spree of wanting to make sure our pets are eating oftentimes as quality ingredients as we are. We saw a really big shift, I would say, especially on that front during COVID, where people were spending a lot of time at home with their pets. Finances were actually surprisingly pretty healthy during that period, but we're now entering back into a more normal period, right? People are back in the office every day. They're perhaps feeling a little bit more pinched when it comes to their finances. What are you seeing today in terms of consumer spending on this category? Are people trading down? Are they buying less? What are you seeing out there?
I think a grounder to start is just the role that pets are playing in our lives now. And so if you go back a couple decades ago, pets were out in yards, and then they moved into the home, and then into the bedroom, and now for some they're even in the bed. And so as pets have become even closer, a part of the family, it has then shifted the way that we think about feeding and caring for them. And you mentioned through COVID, and that was actually quite an interesting time, because you hear about the fact that the pet category was very robust through COVID. And that was what we saw is also disproportionately based off of the pet parent behavior of being home. So you referenced it, like, when you're home more, then the care and treating moments could happen more frequently. Or when you've got a bit more time on your hand, then what we saw as consumers, in addition to like a mainstay kibble option, would then take the time to add wet food in addition to the feeding overall. So now, as we are in a different macroeconomic state, and also from a time state, we are seeing differences in kind of category patterns and consumption. I think the overarching dynamic is that pet has been extremely resilient. And that, I think, speaks to the role that pets are playing in our lives. So we are seeing differences, but what we're seeing over the longer term is just an extremely resilient category.
Well, as you are seeing those trends, I would imagine you are making some changes perhaps to your products, to your portfolio, maybe even your marketing, just to kind of make sure you're hitting consumers with their current needs. How are you adapting to kind of make sure that as you see this macro situation develop, they're still shopping your brands?
Well, I think one of the things that isn't new, but is definitely something that we're leveraging, is that we've had a robust portfolio across different price tiers, different feeding philosophies. And so now that sets us up to be able to offer products to meet wherever a consumer's need or desire is right now. And so, and maybe the other thing that I'm still in a business for a year, one of the things that I'm grateful for is that we've been innovating across all of those partitions, and therefore we're not feeling like we're in a catch-up mode based off of where consumers might lean into today. It's been more of a consistent commitment to try to fulfill as many needs as possible year to year, and that's the commitment for the years to come.
Yeah, it also kind of sounds reminiscent to what Rodney was saying yesterday from Kroger about just sort of making sure you're meeting consumer needs at different price points. I have to ask you a very biased question. So I am team dog, very hardcore team dog over here, but we also polled our attendees when they actually registered to attend this conference. We asked them if they own a pet, and 3,800 of 4,000 people said yes, they do own a pet. Right. But I can get you even further breakdown from there. 31% own a dog, versus 8% who own a cat. Obviously, there's a lot of other animals filling in there. I won't get into too much detail, but I think the crux of my question is, what are you seeing different from dog parents versus cat parents?
Okay, the first insight that I had on this one in joining the category actually came from my boys. And they came running downstairs, probably within a week of sharing that I was going to be moving to Petcare, with a meme. And the meme, and they described it, and they said, okay, there's a picture of a dog, and it says, these people feed me and care for me, they must be gods. And then there's the picture of the cat. Oh, there it is. And then this picture of the cat is like, they feed me and care for me. I must be a god. and that speaks to the differences in the pets themselves. And so and from a feeding standpoint, we do know cats are more independent. And so a treating moment ends up being an opportunity to have more of a bonding moment.
It's a bribe, that's what that is.
It is an encouragement for bonding. And so then some products we have lickable products, and that makes a longer bonding moment. Whereas for dogs, because they are very likely much closer, in proximity to someone, then treating is different. It's a reward for good behavior, or it's a training kind of moment. And I love speaking with pet parents. I mean, that's where we get so many of our insights. And there was one cat owner that I'm thinking of, and she said, I love my cats, and that's because they make you earn their affection. She's like, dogs just give it away, and I thought it was just it's special because although many people have both, there's definitely differences in characteristics of the pets that then shift the relationship and the role that they're playing in our family.
That was a very PC way to answer that question, so I appreciate that. Well, let's move on. We could talk about this all day, but I want to make sure we hit on digital because, of course, the pet category is leaps and bounds ahead of much of the industry on this front. I have some stats here from our friends over at Insider Intelligence that 39% of pet products are sold online, and that number is expected to be 46% by 2026. In your mind, what's really the crux of the success in digital?
I think if we start with the pet parent in this, convenience is a key driver. So, one on subscription services. So with replenishment products, it is convenient to then be on subscription. And also it is convenient at times to either have it delivered to your door or be able to go and do a buy online and pick up at store. So convenience is one driver. I think education is another driver. So, people just want to do the absolute best for their pets, and they're seeking out information to try to inform those choices. And in a digital shopping environment, the content on a product page is more than can be provided in an in-store environment, and so that can help aid the decision-making process as well. And then I think a third dynamic that pet has experienced is, in addition to having one key online pure player, this category has two very strong pure players in the space. I think that was kind of a catalyst to growth that then, frankly, gave manufacturers like Mars, a focus, and we put a lot of energy to understand, and that has allowed us then to partner with other retailers on being able to meet, again, consumers where and when they want to shop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the e-commerce pure plays, because I was definitely gonna go there. You do just have two incredibly big powerhouses there, but at the end of the day, when you sort of, take a step back, think about the category at large, obviously depends on the animal itself, the size of the animal, how often you're having to feed it, but the products are oftentimes very big, they're very bulky, they're very heavy. So could you dive a little bit more into what you were talking about with sort of those more traditional retail partners that have that brick and mortar footprint? How are you working together with them to make sales maybe more educational? I know you just talked about that, but also kind of more profitable as well.
So Mars, how we do business is guided by 5 principles, and one of those is mutuality. And so with a lens of mutuality, ultimately we want to find win-win solutions to drive our joint businesses. And so when we're thinking about doing that in an online space, it's partnerships through how do we increase basket size? Is it more premium products? How do we make sure that single orders, ultimately have more margin associated to help offset costs of either picking or delivery. So it can be through product portfolio choices. It can be through looking at end-to-end supply chain efficiencies and how we can end up making a better partnership there. And then I think specifically for brick and mortar retailers and being able to leverage their total shopping ecosystem, we have now acquired a lot of information about how and when consumers want to shop and the kinds of information that they want and how to grow basket, how to provide the content that helps convert. And that's kind of the partnership that we're committed to make to, again, I know I keep saying it, but it's meeting them where and when they want to shop. From my seat, it's not making it more digital unless the shopper wants to go there. So it's more about having the right information at the right time to be able to convert.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I do also want to pick on D2C for a second, because I know this was somewhat before your time, but Mars Pet did acquire Nom Nom Now a couple months before you started. For those that aren't familiar with that is a D2C pet food company. What have you learned from bringing that company in the fold? Has it really sort of informed how you think about the role of D2C? Is it more informational? Are you actually trying to get transactions through that format? How are you thinking about that?
So when Num Num integrated into the Mars Petcare ecosystem, it sits with another division, and through that, the insights are direct consumer insights. So for much of our portfolio, it's with retailer partners, and therefore we're not getting the consumer information firsthand. So this was a way to kind of grow overall awareness, understanding of consumers through D2C, although for the brands that are more accessible, the intention is not to make those D2C. It's more about the consumer insight that's coming through it. They are particularly playing in one part of the partition, or one part of the category, which is fresh food. So again, we'll be able to get insights through that then we can reapply to the rest of our brands.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I know you talked about subscription earlier as well, but it makes me just kind of think about bringing new consumers into the brand as well, because we've already showed pictures of dogs here. Everyone wants to show a picture of their dog. So how are you really sort of capitalizing on the love for this category in order to acquire new consumers?
So from a marketing standpoint, we disproportionately invest digitally, and we want to put the marketing powerhouse to connect with consumers and drive demand. And so that's one piece of it. Then it's about using retail media networks, in-store awareness drivers to reach more and more consumers. And I'd say, and then sometimes there's unique partnerships, like we currently have one with Hilton, and that's about making the world more pet-friendly and making travel more pet-friendly. And so in partnership with them, the guests of Hilton can call our pet expert line to be able to say, whatever questions, my dog seems to bark every time I want to leave the room. What do I do? And those might not be Mars consumers. However, it's a way to start that connection and therefore, hopefully develop a longer-term relationship.
I know, that's fantastic. Well, I know we're technically out of time, but I'm going to ask you one more before we get the hook. We talked earlier about some of the insights that you're getting from the other divisions at Mars. Given you guys are so far ahead in digital, what information are you sharing with them?
We'll share anything. I mean, ultimately, it's all one family business, and it's it's behind the purpose of creating the world we want tomorrow. And we talk about that being for people, pets, and the planet. And so, yes, I mean, it's an open book with our kind of sister divisions. But absolutely, yeah, pet is very highly digitally penetrated, and so that's one of the things that they're turning to us for.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Alanna. Thank you, all of you, and please feel free to show us your pet photos throughout the day. So, great. All right.
Thank you.